Let me be very clear, Minister Freeland. Your words several times in the House referred to terrorism funding and money laundering. Are you saying you didn't use those words?
I am speaking here today, and I am talking about the central motivation of our very serious actions.
And I'm here to ask you questions, and I expect, unlike question period, I expect a response. So my response is, do you recall using the words terrorism funding and money laundering in the House?
Watch Larry Brock's epic question period. He absolutely shuts down Chrystia Freelands NON answers. It seems that Freeland is having some trouble remembering, saying that the GoFundMe for the Freedom Convoy was funded by terrorist and foreign money laundering. Freeland's lack of answers irritate Mr. Brock. Truth is at the end of the clip when Juan Benitez testifies on the 88% of the Canadian-funded campaign. Here's the clip.
Minister Freeland, you'll agree with me that the state-owned, taxpayer-funded Canadian Broadcasting Corporation reported on February the 10th, 2022, that the GoFundMe donations to the convoy protest came from donors located outside of Canada.
It would be a very effective tool to send a direct message to the organizers, who are getting tons of foreign money coming in. But what I fail to understand is why that tool is not in force and why we aren't using it right now.
You'd agree with that?
I don't have the report in front of me, and I haven't memorized all CBC reports, but I'm prepared to believe you.
In fact, they stated that the donations came from America, United Kingdom, France, Germany, Australia, New Zealand, and the Netherlands. You'd also accept that as fact?
I don't see the article before me, but you say that's what it says.
They even claimed that the convoy might be Russian-funded. Do you recall that?
Again, you're reading from the article.
Yes. On March 21st, 2002, the CBC, without any explanation, without apology, without any clarity, retracted their story regarding the funding of the protest. You were aware of that?
Again, I'm not speaking for the CBC. I'm speaking for the
Ministry of Finance. I'm not asking you to speak for the CBC. I'm asking, were you informed that the CBC retracted the story, the false story, about foreign funding donations to the convoy?
Again, Mr. Brock, I don't believe that the CBC is being interrogated here. I believe it's the government of Canada.
Just answer the question, Minister Freeland. Were you aware, yes or no? It's a simple question.
I don't have the article before me, and I'm not here to answer questions about the CBC and
The
its
Deputy
reporting.
Prime Minister, the most senior cabinet minister, is not prepared to accept whether or not the CBC retracted a false story?
I don't speak for the CBC, sir.
You, as the most senior cabinet minister and the Deputy Prime Minister, relied upon that initial story from the CBC and shared your concerns with Canadians regarding terrorism funding and money laundering. Your words, correct?
Let me be very clear. My principal concern when it comes to the illegal occupation and the illegal blockades is the economic harm that was done to Canada.
Let me be very clear, Minister Freeland. Your words several times in the House referred to terrorism funding and money laundering. Are you saying you didn't use those words?
I am speaking here today, and I am talking about the central motivation of our very serious actions.
And I'm here to ask you questions, and I expect, unlike question period, I expect a response. So my response is, do you recall using the words terrorism funding and money laundering in the House and reporting outside the House? Yes or no, Minister Freeland?
I believe if we were in a court of law where I think you once worked, that might be called badgering the witness, Mr. Brock.
Chair?
Yeah.
Can we allow the question to be answered?
Yes.
Thank you. As I said, my core concern as Minister of Finance and my central justification for these very serious measures that we put in place, as was clear in my opening statement.
You're not answering the question. I'm going to move on.
You're
not answering the question, and I will move on.
Madam Chair, on a point of order, it's entirely possible that Mr. Brock doesn't like the answers he's hearing, but the witness is entitled to provide an answer. If she could just be provided the opportunity to provide an answer.
Madam Chair, the witness may not like the questions, but she's not entitled to establish her own facts in responding to an answer that is non-responsive and not relevant to the question.
I'd actually just, we'll move back 20 seconds, allow you to ask your last question.
Do you agree with me that the Deputy Director of FinTrack, Mr. McKillop, confirmed at committee that the convoy funding did not come from terrorism funding or money laundering, and the typical person who donated hundreds and thousands of dollars to the convoy came from their own resources and posed no security threat? Do you accept that?
What I accept, Mr. Brock, is that the core threat was to the Canadian economy, to our reputation as a trading partner and investment destination.
Thank you
I
for the
made that
non-response,
clear in my
Minister.
opening remarks, and that is my view.
Thank you for the non-response, Minister. Very helpful.
We'll move to Mr. Nackby.
You know, there's been a lot of rhetoric that we've heard in Parliament about this foreign financing, that this is a foreign-funded campaign to undermine Canada's national security. But we've seen numbers from you guys that says that 88% of the donors were Canadians. Can you give us a little more color on that information?
Yes, thank you for the question. Mr. Chair, as I mentioned in my opening comments, our records here at GoFundMe show that 88% of donated funds to the Freedom Convoy campaign originated in Canada, and 86% of the donors were from Canada. That information is based on the best information that we have available to ourselves based on our data, and also in consultation with the information that we're able to gather in partnership with our payment processing partners. And in fact, a large amount of that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for coming before us today. I just wanted to confirm, you know, there was a news report that said that your campaign specifically to support the convoy protesters, the donations originated 60% from Canada and 37% from the United States. Is that correct?
Yes, that is an appropriate breakdown of funds.
In terms of the actual money raised, is that fairly consistent, 60-37, or what was the percentage-wise the origin of the funding?
Yes, that's going to be very consistent. Most of the donations were donations under $100, and it's pretty consistent across the board.
In terms of like around 60% of the total money raised was from Canada and 37% from the United States? Just confirming that that's roughly consistent.
Yeah, I believe it to be. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I believe that to be the case, yes.
Okay.